Well, welcome. You made it here through the ice and floods and all this other stuff. This has been kind of crazy. So it's probably good that we're talking, about electronic communication in this session, because we've had to do a lot of it in the last few weeks. Just given the weather, you've probably gotten a lot of messages from instructors and from each other and figuring out what in the world is going on, or messages from GRCC about the delay and all those things. So we'll be talking primarily about email today, but a little bit about other kinds of communication and why we would choose what we choose. My name's Ann Alexander. I teach full-time in the business department, and I also usually teach a section of CLS 100, the Introduction to College. I've been here at the college for, almost 24 years. Now, I originally worked on the non-credit side, doing technical training for companies. Also worked in institutional research, and then I've been teaching for, I think, about 16 years right now in the business department. And I primarily teach business communication. So this is one of the reasons I've been doing this for the last couple of years. So to talk about how we use communication within the workplace. So it doesn't have to be a for-profit business. It could be a nonprofit business, it could be a voluntary organization. But typically when we communicate in an organization, we're trying to get work done. So it's not like, for example, in English class, sometimes you will do creative writing. Okay, so it's not really creative writing, not necessarily to entertain, sometimes to inspire, but not quite as much. It's usually more to inform and to persuade. And what we want to do is make it as easy as possible for people to get the message and then to do what they need to do. So I'm assuming a lot of you are here from English classes, right? Okay. So I used to always ask when I was doing corporate training, I would say, are you a prisoner, a volunteer, or a vacationer? Prisoner means that you had to be here. Somebody told you you had to come. Okay, volunteer, oh, I wanted to be here. This sounds like fun. Or a vacationer, anything's better than what else I would usually be doing at this time. So if I was talking to people who were in the workplace, a lot of times they'd, oh yeah, I'd rather be doing this than working on the line making parts. You know, it's a little bit better. So I guess I won't ask for a show of hands, but I'm sure we have some who are prisoners, some who are vacationers, and some who are volunteers for here. So thank you for coming. I'm actually pleased that we have this many people here, because I didn't know how it would be with the weather. So well, let's get started here. Uh-oh, what did I do with my little thing? I put it down somewhere. Here it is. Okay. Okay. Why is it not going? Uh-oh. Worst comes to worst? Do this. Okay. So today we'll be talking about email use, also use of different kinds of communication channels, so why you would use a particular method of communication rather than email, creating effective emails, that'll be the bulk of it, and then why bother? Really because of your credibility. Have you ever sent an email out and then wished you had it back? Either you found later on you had a glaring typo in it, or you didn't say what you meant. But sometimes it just goes out there, and it's really, you can't really take it back unless the person has not already opened it. So it's really hard to get rid of it. So what I'd like you to think about, email is the second most, this is considered by business people to be the second most effective way of communicating, or the channel within the workplace. What do you think is the first most effective way to get work done? Pardon me? Calling. Okay, so phone call certainly gives you a little bit more information, right? Why do you get more information from a phone call than you do from an email? Okay. Right, so it's really immediate. You've got immediate feedback. We may think that email is immediate, but it's really not, right? So, and we think text is even more immediate than email. I always ask, how long do you think is appropriate to wait before returning a text? When do you, if you send somebody a text, when do you expect to have a response? Pardon me? Within 5 minutes, okay. Wow, I'm not very good at texting then. So, yeah, I think it depends what the situation is. You know, if it's an emergent situation, certainly you want it right away. But we may assume that somebody is waiting for their text and they may be doing something else. I actually do have my phone with me this time, but the ringer is off, and if I'm to get a text, I'm not going to know about it until at least 11:45 on there. So actually, the most effective way that people said was getting things done at work, rather, was face-to-face, which has even more advantages than the phone, because you not only get the immediacy, you not only get the sound of the voice, the vocal expression, but then you also get the facial expression. So you're right there. Now, sometimes that's not practical. We found over the last week, right? If we had classes we're supposed to have, they don't happen, not practical to do it that way. So we may have to use other kinds of channels, but face-to-face is great. One thing that I like to see happening now is we're having a lot more video than we used to have. So video conferencing can be a really nice way that gets you some of the advantages of face-to-face, but also advantages of telephone calls and texting, so that you can actually see people and talk with them in real time. There might be a second or two lag time, but often you can share screens. A lot of our tutoring programs now are using a tool called Zoom, which is like Skype, except I like it better than Skype, to actually talk real time. I know we're doing that in the business department with our tutoring. Some people in business spend 25% of their day dealing with email. That sounds like a lot of time to spend on email, which comes out to over 14 hours a week, over 100 emails a day. Does anybody here get 100 emails a day? Yeah. I actually probably get, depending on the time of the semester, I get between 50 and 100 emails a day, every day. It'll be closer to 100 as we get towards the end of the semester. So we do get a lot of different emails. I don't know if this thing's going to work for me or not, but let's try it and see. Okay, so what I'd like you to think about are some appropriate uses or inappropriate uses of email. So talk with one or two people by you and try and come up with 3 inappropriate and 3 appropriate uses for email. So I just need to point it down here. Okay. Okay, let's just take another minute or so and think about appropriate and inappropriate uses of email. Come on in. Yeah. We're just talking for a minute or so about appropriate and inappropriate uses of email. Okay, what might be, and this is just for volunteers, what might be an appropriate use of email? What would be a good use of email? Yes? Yeah, work situations. What kinds of work situations? Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, so to let a lot of people know information at one time. Yeah.
Informing other employees of changes maybe in business ethics.
Okay. Okay, so let people know what's going on. Let people know about changes. All right. Other things that might be appropriate for email. What would be a good reason to email your instructor? Yeah, missing class. Yeah, I appreciate that when people do that. If somebody is going to miss or has missed and they follow up and want to know what happened in class that day or what do they need to know for the next time. Okay, what I don't like is if somebody says, did we do anything in class today? Have you ever gotten one of those? Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, because I always feel like saying, and you can't really say this, but I always feel like saying, no, we didn't do anything at all. We were so depressed that you weren't there that we looked at the wall for 90 minutes and did nothing at all. Yeah, but you know, following up, things like that. So Generally, it tends to be things that are informational, that are good to put out through email. If it's something that requires a big, longer discussion, you might want to have a meeting about it. But short informational things are good for email. And it's also good to getting to a lot of people. What might be some inappropriate uses of email? Yes?
Breaking up with your girlfriend.
Yes, breaking up with somebody. I've actually heard of people breaking up on text, too. Or you can just ghost and disappear. But, you know, that's another thing. But, yeah, that's probably, it's easier for the sender of the message, but it's really bad for the receiver of the message. Okay? Other inappropriate uses of email. Pardon me?
Just make small talk.
Yeah, just like, how are you, what's going on? Yeah.
Last minute things.
Okay.
That's
Right, so if it's a really last minute thing, you can't guarantee that people are gonna see it. Because I always think it's funny when I get an email, somebody will send me an email at 11 o'clock at night. And then I see them 9 o'clock the next morning, they'll say, did you get my email? And chances are I may not have looked at it yet if I got it really late at night. Or if somebody sends me something even at 6 o'clock in the evening, I might not see it right away on there, so you can't assume. So if it's a real emergent thing, that's probably not the best way to go. Any other ones you can think of? Inappropriate uses. I would think firing somebody would probably be pretty bad by email. Oh, by the way, your position is terminated. Don't bother coming in. Okay, let's see if it works here. Yay. So part of the ways that we select the channel or the way that we're going to send a message is depending on these things. So we talk about richness, control, and constraints. So richness means how immediate it is. So phone is more immediate than email. Face-to-face is more immediate than phone there. And also, what kind of cues do you get? So if you're doing texting, if you're doing email, if you're sending a letter or a report, all you have is the words, which is why it's so critical to think about the right words when you write things down. You have more to go on if you're face-to-face or on the phone. You have the sound of the voice, you have facial expressions if you're face-to-face or video. So definitely face-to-face is the richest. Okay, then we have control. How much control do you have over it? How much planning do you have? Now this is an area in which written communication of any kind has more control, right? Because you can think about what you're going to say as you do it. And sometimes we don't, right? Sometimes we'll just kind of blurt. You know, I'm thinking about, well, I don't want to go down that road. I'm thinking about twittering. But yeah, so you can tweet things and not think too much about it, and they just go out there to the world. But ideally, even if you're just writing a short email, you should think about what you're going to say beforehand, before you put those words down. Because an email can be a permanent record, right? It can be subpoenaed in a court of law. And if you've watched, if you use a computer at your current job right now, or even using a computer here at GRCC, we have an acceptable use agreement. So basically, our IT friends can look at everything we're doing on the computer while we're here. So you don't want to put things down in writing, even if it's something as simple as an email that you don't want people to see. So it is permanent, too. We have less control when we're immediate and face-to-face, right? It's really harder to change directions if you're in the middle of a conversation. And then constraints have to do with how difficult it is to make it happen. So how much do you have to coordinate? How many resources do you have to put in? Okay, this event took a lot of coordinating and resources, right? So Mr. Hayes and the other folks who were involved in this had to go through and contact a bunch of people and arrange for the rooms and arrange for video and arrange for all this stuff. So if we do a face-to-face meeting or several face-to-face meetings like we have going on here, there are a lot of constraints. On the other hand, something like email, you can send out a message very quickly to a whole lot of people all over the world if you want to, so fewer constraints. So this means, we can make it work, so email has low richness, but high control, and that should be low. This is why you should proofread, right? This is terrible. Get -1 on that. Okay, and then face-to-face has high richness, low control, and depending on what it is, it's low to high constraints. So for me to walk next door and talk to my colleague, Mr. Barnhart, who has the office next to me, that's pretty low in terms of constraints. I just knock on his door and say hi. But if I'm trying to coordinate a meeting with dozens of people, that has high constraints. So 7 things we're going to talk about, different ways to create effective emails. And then at the end, I'll show you an example of a really poor email, and then we'll talk about which areas of these constraints does it violate. So use it for the right purposes, which we talked about already. So things that are informational, things that you want to get to a lot of people. They could be important, but they don't have to be really emergent or immediate. Make sure they're easy to read. What do you think would make an email less easy to read? What would make it harder to read? Yeah, if it's really, really long, people look at it, it's the, what is the thing? Too long, didn't read? Yeah. So yeah, they're not going to read it if it's really, really long. And I think that's true for a lot of different kinds of written communication. If we just have a big block of stuff, we're not going to want to read it. If it's split up into paragraphs or organized in a way that's visually pleasing, it's a little bit easier. But yeah, you typically don't want to use up more than one screen on your email. What else would make an email difficult to read? Yeah. Yeah, too many topics. So if you're talking about this, this, and this, and yeah, and you're not sure what they want, so try to limit it to one topic, which will also make it shorter. Okay, other ideas. What would make an email difficult to read?
Using really big, extravagant words.
Okay, yeah, so using giant words that you don't necessarily need. And in business communication or in work-related communication overall, we want to try and avoid those big words unless it's something that you really need to express your message. You want to make it easy for them to read. Welcome. Are you more English students? Yay, okay. Okay, another thing that bugs me is if there's no subject line, because then I'm suspicious. Is it somebody trying to sell me something, or is it spam, or what it is? So you can definitely make it easier to read and also respect other people's time if you put a good subject line in there. Okay, how about showing respect for other people's time? Maybe let's look at the flip side on this one too. So how would you send an email that was not respecting somebody's time or wasting their time? Has anybody ever received an email that wasted your time? And if so, what was it about it that wasted your time? I'm sorry, didn't relate to? Okay, yes. So not really relevant. Yeah, not really relevant for you. Yeah, I think another thing that really bugs me is if people reply all when they don't have to, and you just get all these things, you know, who agrees on this, this, or this? And then everybody replies, and you get 12 emails. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so lots of repetitive things. And I think, too, if you don't have a good subject line on your email, so something better than hello or question or something like that, it will also save them time, too. And you'll probably get a response more quickly. Okay, other things, protecting privacy and confidentiality. A lot of times you'll see something even at the bottom of the screen, sort of a boilerplate language that says, you know, this is not intended for anybody else, blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, it's possible to forward an email anywhere, even if you're not supposed to. So do make sure that you're not talking about private or confidential things in email, because that could get out. And also make sure that you're sending the email to the right person. I have seen situations where people are complaining about another person and they accidentally send the email to the person they're complaining about. Not a good thing. Okay, responding promptly. Now, what promptly is may vary in the situation. I was talking to a colleague of mine who actually is doing a workshop tomorrow Peggy Wenninger. So if you have a chance tomorrow, hers is really good. But she used to work in HR, human resources, and for her, promptly did mean right away. They were making decisions about employment, they were contacting references, they were making sure they had all the materials they needed, and it was really important to get back to everybody right away. In most cases, within a business day is probably going to be right if you're talking in a workplace situation. Then maintaining professionalism and appropriate formality. I actually saw an article from an instructor who had written something, and her article was called, "My Name Isn't Hey." So, and I do get a lot of emails that just say, "Hey, hey Ann, what's up?" And email is a little bit more formal. We tend to think of it like text because we often do both of them on our phones right now. But email is intermediate in formality between a text and an actual letter, but I would say it's closer to the letter than it is to the text. So do proofread them, do spell things out, pretend that you're writing a letter or a memo when you write an email. So it does need to be a professional communication, a little bit more formal. And then finally, maintaining emotion and managing civility. I've also seen that go wrong in the workplace too, where somebody is upset about something, they email everybody, and it gets really dramatic, and all these different people are in there, and they're weighing in, and it's not really the best use of that tool to have a big conflict going on over email. So trying to keep it civil. We tend to have more of a negative bias, so that if we get news in an email, even if it's relatively neutral, we might interpret it negatively. And if it's negative, we interpret it very negatively. So try and have a positive and constructive tone when you're doing your emails. So we'll look a little bit more at each of these. Oops, going the wrong way. There we go. So routine messages, fact-based. One that I get every week that I really appreciate getting is somebody from our CTE, our Center for Teaching Excellence. It's a professional development area for our faculty members. And the person who runs that sends out an email every week about what's going on in the CTE this week. And it's informative. I know to count on seeing it on Mondays, that this is going to come out. And we see what's happening that we might be interested in attending that week. So that's useful. Task-oriented, also non-sensitive. You probably do not want to, for example, send medical results, test results through email. Not very confidential. Now, if you have a password-protected portal, like, does anybody go to Spectrum Health for anything? Doctors through Spectrum Health, but they have a thing called My Health where you can get your own confidential stuff, which is nice. But I wouldn't use email for that. Okay, let's see. Also, talked about subject lines here before. Provide a short, descriptive subject line so you know what it's about. Make sure that the message is brief, but complete as well. So if, for example, you want to have a meeting with somebody, it's probably a good idea to give them some options in the email, because if you start out saying, "We should meet sometime," and then they come back and say, "Well, when?" "I don't know, maybe da-da-da-da-da." Well, that doesn't work for me. And you could save a lot of time and a lot of those exchanges if you just say, "I'd like to meet next week. I have time Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday morning. Do either of those work for you?" And it cuts through a few more exchanges, saves people a little bit more time. Identify what you expect them to do. And also give them a deadline, if there is a deadline, because if you ask somebody to do something as soon as possible, when are they going to do it? Yeah, could be last minute, could be never. It could be right away, but there's no guarantee. But if you say, "I need your response by Friday at a certain time," then you're more likely to get it. Often it's useful to have a signature block at the end where you have your address and contact information and email, that type of thing. And then you can also use attachments sometimes to make your email itself shorter. So if you want to get input, for example, on a new policy in your company, you probably wouldn't put the whole policy in the email. That would make it another one of those great big long things. But you could have it on a separate document and attach it, and that will make it a little bit easier. Showing respect for time. So select the recipients carefully. Is this something that they need to know that's going to help them get things done? Provide timelines, provide options. Be careful about using the priority flag. So depending on which email you have, it might be a little red envelope or a different color or whatever. I had a colleague a while back who everything was a red envelope. Has anybody heard the story about what the boy who cried wolf? Right, and that's kind of what it was. Like, oh, yeah, it's from so-and-so again. Red, who cares? But if I get an email that's in a red envelope from somebody that never sends red envelopes, I'm going to really pay attention to it. So just be careful about making it a high priority unless it really is. Let people know if it's going to take you longer than anticipated to take action or to respond. So if you know you're going to be traveling or you're going to be away from your computer, whatever it is, let people know so they can plan on that. And avoid contributing to repetitive chains, like I was saying before, whether it's everybody saying yes, 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 or going back and forth. Trying to be efficient with your use of email is really respectful of people's time. Okay, privacy and confidentiality. Make sure you're not spreading sensitive or confidential information. And also make sure you double check the address line before you send it off. Particularly if you're in a company, now we have that here at GRCC, where it will go ahead and start filling in the address. And I need to make sure that I'm sending it to the right person. Believe it or not, we have 2 staff members at the college that are both named Felix, which is not a real common name. But if I want to send it to the right Felix, my department head is Felix Pereiro. He's second in the list on the Felixes alphabetically, so I have to make sure I'm sending it to the right Felix. Or this other Felix, whom I've never met, will wonder, you know, who is this and why is she writing to me? So make sure you check the address. Respond promptly. So most business professionals would expect a reply within 1 day. Typically 1 business day. You can't always count on people responding on the weekend. But let people know how soon it's going to be that you're going to reply to them. And then professionalism and formality. So avoid indications that you view email as something that's really informal. So if you're writing it, my title for this was email, this is not a text. So it isn't like a text. Capitalize the word I when you're referring to yourself. Use complete sentences. So write it closer to a letter than to a text. So the same kind of standards that you would use for other types of formal written communication. It's also a nice touch to use greetings and names in it. So good afternoon or hello, whoever it is. And even put a signature at the end. Thanks for your help, whoever. Okay. And then our last thing here is emotion. So neutrality and negative effects, I touched on that a little bit earlier. So even a neutral message could be perceived negatively just because, remember back at the beginning, we talked about richness. It's not very rich. All you have to go on are your words. So choose them carefully if you're going to type those out. Avoid flames or angry kinds of things. Also cyber silence, just ignoring somebody, ghosting somebody, not a good thing to do. And then refraining from cyber incivility. What do you think that might be? What would that look like? Cyber incivility. So somebody is being impolite or rude or not courteous online. What kinds of things might they do? Ideas? Yeah, so to put things very negatively, okay, or to really criticize somebody harshly in an email. Yeah, and reply all and say, that was a really stupid thing that you did in the meeting today, da, 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 and then have everybody see it. So that's more active. Passive, I think, would be more on the order of just failing to reply or ignoring an email, and somebody keeps asking you something and you don't get back to them. But it's very easy with an email for a relationship with somebody to go downhill very quickly. And I'm talking more often here, I'm talking about a work relationship, but I suppose it could happen in personal relationships as well. But if somebody is either really rude on email or very negative on email or just doesn't respond to it at all, they're not communicating with you, and it's really hard to get work done. So things that you can do if you're the victim of incivility. You could reinterpret. Thinking of one guy who was a student of mine a couple of years ago now, and he was very, what's the right word, straightforward. He's a Marine, just back from the service, and he was very straightforward, but he would kind of go off on these tangents of all these things, and then, you know, he'd be talking about different things that had happened, and then he'd finally get to his question, and I would just think, boy, he must be really stressed out, and not take it personally, and then I would just answer the question that he was asking. So rather than all this other stuff that was going on about the whole world, I would answer the question about assignment 2 and not get too upset by it. Also, you can try and just relax yourself. The nice thing about emails is you don't have to deal with the person right there, right? You turn the computer off. You don't have to deal with them. And try and diffuse it. So again, responding to the real concern rather than whatever angry thing is going on there. Never thought we had to do so much for email, right? It's a pretty simple tool, but lots of things going on. So I want to show you a poor student email. Now this is not real, but it's based on a lot of different things that I've seen and other people have seen. So think about where it falls short in any of those principles for creating email. So what I'd like you to do is, as I show the email, I'll read it to you, think about it and talk about it with 1 or 2 people by you, and then we'll talk about what's wrong with this email. So this is, yeah, it's a little hard to see the underlined pieces. This is to me, so that's my email, from unrecognizable name at gmail.com. That's always entertaining when you get something you have no idea who it's from. So unrecognizable person. Regarding, no subject line, hey, I won't be in class today, without an apostrophe. Run-on sentence, I feel very sick and need to sleep all day. I know we're watching a video about something today, but are we doing anything else? Let me know if there's anything else I miss, exclamation point, no capital L. Can't, capital, apostrophe. My students will know I'm really picky about this stuff. I can't get Blackboard to work and Connect sucks, so please grant me an extra week, supposed to be extension, but not spelled, exclamation point. Again, I apologize for my absence, but I wouldn't be able to stay awake and let alone focus on the material in class and would just like to sleep. Please do not penalize me if we do any in-class activities for points. Thanks a lot and hope your day is going great, exclamation point. Have fun and tell my group members hi for me. This is inspired by an article called Dear Student, My Name is Not Hey. Okay, so talk about this with 1 or 2 people near you. What's wrong with this email? Why would you not want to send this email to your instructor? Yeah. Okay, just take a couple of more minutes, then we'll hear what you came up with. What's wrong with this email? Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot there that they don't even need to have. TMI, yeah.
I'm sick. I'll come back to catch up. And then that's it.
Yeah.
Be like,
Yeah. Well, at least the,
literally, he spelled extra wrong. So
yeah, yeah. Extra week, yeah. Well, at least they didn't treat me to their symptoms. I've gotten that sometimes. I've been throwing up all day, so. Yeah. Ooh, no fun. Yeah. Okay, so what were some of the things wrong with this email? Why is this not a particularly good email? Okay, you had some. You want to share some? Yeah.
So first off, you should never put any deceivable names that just use extra information.
Yeah, okay.
Another thing is that you shouldn't use exclamation points so much. It seems like comes across that you were a little too excited to skip out on class.
Uh-huh. Yeah, if you're that sick, how do you have the energy for all those exclamation points? Okay.
Another thing is, lastly, for me, is that a lot of the spelling was
Uh-huh.
incorrect, like extra, you should leave it.
Yeah,
Maybe that actually you install it.
right. Okay. All right, so a lot of different things. Other things that people came up with. What else is wrong with this? Yeah.
No, I was saying that like the tone of it, if they treat the professor like they're friends.
Yeah.
whereas, like,
Hey, have a
there
great
should
day.
be
Yeah.
a professional.
Right, it's not very professional the way that it's written. Okay. Yeah, and you had one too? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So really asking for special treatment and not sure. Now, that's not to say that a professor might not give you some special treatment. I mean, I've got one student right now who is 38 weeks pregnant, you know? So if the baby comes right away and she has to miss class, well, yeah, the baby comes when it comes. But this is a little bit different. So, okay, any other things that you found that were not the best? Anything? Can you think of anything that you would not like to, a reason you would not like to have this email?
Well, Jake, my student, I was that was just an overshare. It's enough to just say,
Yeah,
and you said it really well, Jake, just to say I won't be in class.
right.
It's an overshare, and you talk about respecting the recipient's time.
Exactly, because you have to read through a lot of stuff to say, oh yeah, so and so.
I think less is more with email. Just maybe 2 or 3 sentences and still
Right.
and informative without all the.
All the extra stuff. Yeah, I was just saying up here, it's probably good that he didn't list all his symptoms. That could be really oversharing. I actually have received an email. I've been throwing up all day, so I won't be at class. Like, ugh. I don't want that rolling around in my head. So one other thing I wanted to mention too, it's really useful if you give information to help people save time too, to respect their time. If you're writing an email to one of your instructors, identify which class you're in, because a lot of us may have multiple sections of the same thing. So even if you say English 101, chances are your professor may be teaching more than one section of English 101, and it's just helpful to know, even if you just say English 101 Monday, Wednesday morning, or something like that. And also, use your GRCC email, please, because it lets us know exactly who you are, because your email is your name. A few of you, if you have a more common name, may have a number after it, but usually it's just your first name, your last name. And that way we know who it is. I actually have gotten emails, not for a while now. People are very good about using the GRCC email, but one time I got one from Beerman89, okay? I have no idea who Beerman89 was. Another one I got from Sexy Girl with like 5 extra R's in girl. So, and we could go into another whole thing on that. If you're using your email on your resume, make sure you have an appropriate email that's usually your first and your last name, maybe a few numbers, something like that. But that's another time that we can talk about that. The last thing, and I think this person was either just too sick or careless or whatever, do double check your spelling and your usage before you put it in. You could unwittingly, particularly since spell check doesn't help if it's a real word. One that I goof up on all the time is I think I'm typing from and I type form. So you have to go back and look at it. But my funniest one that I ever had was a guy who sent me an email and wanted to meet with me, and he wanted to meet with me in the business tutoring lab, but he instead accidentally wrote, I want to meet with you in the torturing lab. And it's one of the few times in my life I laughed out loud when I got an email. And then he actually approached me about it. He said, oh, I feel so bad. I sent that stupid thing to you. And so he caught it afterwards. But yeah, I mean, it's not that bad to go to the tutoring lab. But let's meet in the torturing lab. But yeah, sometimes you unwittingly will say things that you did not mean to say if you don't look at it. And for some reason, I find it harder to proofread online than if I'm looking at a physical paper. So sometimes if it's a really important thing that you've got to send out, you might even want to print it out and look at it or read it out loud or something like that. Okay, so just a, pardon me?
Just this morning, I had a colleague ask me just to quick check on the
Uh-huh. Oops, wrong way. Right, so you can have somebody else take a look at it. Okay, and then why do we want to bother with having good emails? It's really for your own credibility. So whether it's while you're in school, if you're sending emails for work and sending emails to potential employers, you want to look competent. If you spell extra without an E, you don't look very competent. Or if you're having an exclamation point after every single sentence, you don't sound serious. Also caring, and I think that's just the idea that you're being respectful and professional, respecting the other person's time. And then also even your character, and that gets into trying to be as positive and constructive as possible when you're sending an email that is related to professional things. So last thing here. Oops, going the wrong way, sorry. So these 7 things again, using email for the right purposes, make sure your emails are easy to read, show respect for other people's time, protect their privacy and confidentiality, respond promptly, make sure you act professional and formal as appropriate, and then maintain your emotion, manage your civility. So our last thing here. This is how you can reach me, and I have an email back from the days of only 8 letters. Some newer folks here have an email that's a lot longer, but mine is just aalexand@grcc.edu. If you're interested in a copy of the slides, I would be happy to send those to you, or instructors I could even send to if you want to give those out. And consider enrolling in BA 201, Business Communication. It's not just for business majors, so I think it can be useful in a lot of different areas. So any last-minute questions, thoughts? Okay, we've got a minute or 2 to spare. So that's it. Well, thank you very much for coming, for braving the ice. Yeah. So.